Hey, so it's come to my attention that 83% of people that listen to this podcast don't actually follow or subscribe, which kind of means that every time they listen, they have to search it up as opposed to the show being in their show list on their preferred listening platform. So, for example, Apple Podcasts is one of the most popular ways that people listen to this show. You click on the purple icon on your iPhone and go to the show and you can hit follow. Same on Spotify, and I also now upload all audio episodes to YouTube so you can listen there. So subscribe. It's kind of how it all works in this day and age. I don't often ask people for calls to action, but it does help the show. It helps me expand. It helps me get the messages of my guests as far as possible and kind of give them the respect that they deserve. And I feel a deep sense of responsibility there. So do me a favour, hit the follow or subscribe button and support THT. Thanks.
Tried to hold us back, tried to hold us back. We will be here for...
This week I catch up with singer, songwriter, skateboarder Jamie Hay. Jamie shares about his lifetime of playing music and skateboarding with his friends. He's been in bands such as Conation and Death in the Family. He's toured with bands like The Hard-Ons and Propaganda, just to name a couple. Great episode, amazing stories. He's a kind soul, so sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Child of the crayon, child of the light, stars of the neon belong to a culture destined to rock for eons. Time doesn't exist. Shut those cataracts, capture the virtualist. Now, let's get back to what makes things.
I'm being sarcastic. I watched that episode with my son this afternoon. The young ones, Lexi Sale goes on the sick one where he goes on about. You being sarcastic because the guy.
Was it Rick?
No, it's Alexi Sale says it to Neil. He's like, you being sarcastic because I don't like sarcasm. I saw a guy the other day and said, "No, stay in it," and he goes, "But it wasn't. It was a bit cloudy." Sorry, I'm gonna do that to you all.
I love it.
all afternoon,
dude. Please.
Okay, so about myself. My name is Jamie Hay. I am a musician of sorts, a skateboarder, a dad, a friend, a lover of music and art and all things creative. And I'm an old man these days.
Interesting.
Still doing it though, but that's good, I think.
A lover of all things creative. Skateboarding, man, I feel like it definitely breeds creativity. Would you say, if you had to sit here right now and reflect on your lifetime of creativity, how much do you think skateboarding has played a part in your musical journey?
Oh, it's played a lot, but it's kind of, I guess it's been a bit of a sideline as well. Like it's been more of a therapeutic part of my life in a way than part of the creative kind of side. Skateboarding's always just been that escape from everything, ever since I was a kid. Even when an adult, like you just, when you skate, you can't think of anything else. You're just in that moment. And I think for anyone that does it, gets it, like you can't be thinking about the shit in your life when you're going to do a trick. Well, you can, and you might not, get it down. But
would you say it was, like, for lack of a better term, like the thing that balanced you, or
for sure
created some kind of balance?
Yeah, it gives you that space. Like for me, skateboarding's always been that kind of like time to myself and escape. And also it's pushed me as well. Years ago when I used to skate a lot and I would try to do stuff. But it was also a very sociable thing as well. Like some of my favorite session skating was just sitting around talking shit with my friends. Like that's the best. That's one of the best things about it. And even more so these days. I've definitely really enjoy just that chance to go and hang out with your mates. You know? Yeah.
It really is the best. And I'm the exact same because I think we're in the same age range.
Yep.
And for me, more so than ever, it's about that mainly.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think the longevity is in that as well. That's what keeps me coming back over and over. So
For sure.
Like, I know you've had quite a detailed musical career. You mentioned it's been 30 years of playing music. Is that correct?
Yeah, the first band that I had was when I was in high school with my friends, and we were like 13, 14 or so when we started. And I think we started playing shows when we were like 14, 15. Yeah.
If we then
Crazy.
fast forward to where you are now, this is a bit of I hope it's not a hard question, but like, how would you observe your relationship to music from then to now?
It's exactly the same.
No shit.
Yeah, man. Like it really, like, you know, I think maybe if you asked me halfway through, maybe it would have been different because I was, you know, it was a lot busier then, like doing a lot more stuff, and maybe had more aspirations of what I wanted to do with it then. But like, it's always been for me just I wanted to fucking write music and play shows, write songs, and just perform the songs, like just do the thing, right? So the fact that I'm still doing it now, to me, actually stokes me probably more than when I was a kid because I now know I know the depth of it now that I'm an older guy. You know that it's like that it means a lot. But when I was a teenager, it's like, well, this is just what I want to do, and I don't really think too much about it. I just want to do it. But now I know way more like about what it has given me and what it can continue to give me, that it means more, if that makes sense.
Do you think it ties into your sense of mortality? Because, you know, as we get older, we do start thinking about, like, how long have I got here?
For sure.
And I know for me personally, I'm starting to refine, like, what's really important in my life.
You do.
Kids,
Absolutely.
Kids, obviously, is a really obvious one.
Yeah.
But as I get older, I realize, like, this is the real essence.
For sure.
The passions.
Yeah.
And the passions for me are, like we've mentioned, like, for me, it's skateboarding, and even this podcast is like that. So is that what you're sort of saying?
For sure. Like, I think when you get older, you realize that your time is finite. It could end like it's a pretty morbid kind of thing to admit, but it really does start to permeate your thoughts a bit more. And you go, oh, like, if I'm going to spend my time doing things, I want it to be the things that I really love and really want to spend those times doing. So it's like, yeah, I absolutely agree, man. Like it's really, it is a thing I think about more as I get older, for sure. And that's why it means more.
Does it take you away from your family at times?
Like you kind of have to, I guess, to get in, like to rehearse or to write songs. You kind of have to. You have to step into your own head and into your own room, and I need that space to do that. So you do, but it's, for me these days, it's actually less time away than I have in the past. Like, so I think, you have to step away to be creative.
Does it make you a better dad?
Like maybe in some ways, but like, but the like, hey man, don't interrupt me, I'm doing something, kind of doesn't make you feel like you're being a good dad. But it is what it is, and I think when you spend time with people, that's what matters. It's not the time that you don't spend. Like, you got to be mindful and conscious of that.
Yeah, for sure, man. I get it. Yeah. And it's finding that balance is tricky. You've been part of several bands over the years. I am going to raise like the ones like Conation and A Death in the Family. Mm-hmm. And in later years, you've done a lot of solo work. And now you're in another band, from what I understand, or is it more solo still?
Yeah, it's more solo stuff. That's actually, for the first time, ever. It's only solo stuff these days.
Okay.
Yeah. So the solo stuff has kind of been there for about 15 years or more. I think. Probably over 15 years. But the solo stuff's always been the kind of like side project, in inverted commas, to like the bands that I was in at the time. A few years ago, I was in a band, Post-Truth, with my mates, and going back to kind of what we were just talking about, pardon me,
That's all right.
what we were just talking about was I had that moment of thinking I want to kind of put some more effort into the solo stuff, and I had to make that decision. To do that, I had to quit the band and say, all right, I'm just going to do this.
Right.
Yeah. Which was a pretty hard decision to make, but the older I get, like the time I have is pretty tight, and if I wanted to really give that some time, yeah.
Oh, so you're saying like the time you have to give to a band was just too much, and you couldn't meet the expectations of that. So it wasn't like a burnout.
No. We were kind of like not doing much.
Okay.
We were like we done, we wrote and recorded a record, and then leading up to that record, I just went, I don't think I can commit to going on tour and doing all this stuff for this record. I think now's the time to kind of call it. So yeah, so yeah, the solo stuff's actually now the only thing that I'm doing, which is good because it means I got a record finished last year. So that I'm stoked on that, and getting mixes back at the moment, and really happy with it. So
from what I understand, like those bands have quite a dedicated and hardcore following. I mean, how has that shaped you as a solo artist, going from that to solo? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah, you kind of, in some ways, you kind of throw all that away. Like you do because the people that loved the previous band, that's what they loved. They didn't love me singing on an acoustic guitar. They liked Conation because it was power violence and it was screaming. It was really abrasive and really fast, or whatever they got out of that. But it's a completely different thing. So you kind of do start again in a little way. You look at the hard-ons and then look at Nunchucker Superfly. Look at the people that turn up to hard-on shows and then the people that turn up to Nunchucker Superfly shows. Same people, same songwriters, but just it's a totally different experience, and people don't respond in the same way. They're both incredible bands, fucking killer bands, but it's a different thing. So
I wonder if it takes it must take a level of courage to reinvent yourself a little bit like that. Do you think that's the key?
Well, I wouldn't say that's. I'm talking from my perspective. I wouldn't say it's courage. You just kind of you do what you want to do, and you kind of just cop whatever comes with it.
You
know what I mean?
Scared of ridicule or judgment?
Look, I remember when back how it actually started with me doing solo stuff. There was a couple of shows. I can't remember why. Again, back to the terrible memory that I have, but I can't remember why Conation couldn't, why Muzz couldn't do a show. But Conation played a couple of acoustic shows, and those songs, I guess, on guitar maybe worked acoustically, but vocally not at all, not screaming, but but we played a couple of shows just acoustically, and we kind of made it more chill and whatnot. And I remember people giving us shit about that, kind of loving to kind of poke fun at us for having a go at that.
Just because they're so accustomed to seeing you perform in a certain way.
That's fine. And there's always shit talkers in every scene that love to stir stuff up and whatever.
How do you deal with that? Because I've actually, for the first time ever in the history of the podcast, been dealing with I had a controversial guest on. I won't
Right.
mention their name, but
Yeah.
and there's been a lot of commentary on it. Some of it like pretty hard to read.
Yeah.
So
okay.
I've stopped reading comments,
Yep.
and I realised I'm not ready for it. And the actual particular guest, who has been probably in the spotlight for a very long time,
Yep. Okay.
just didn't water off a duck's back.
Right.
Just
yeah,
as like seen it all.
For sure.
How do you? I mean, does it affect you?
Oh, I think
The shit talking.
I think it does. Like I'm a pretty kind of emotional person, and I think I kind of take a lot of things to heart easily as well. But look, back in those days, there was no social media. People would say it either to your face or write it in a fanzine, and then that fanzine goes in the bin and it's over. Like it doesn't matter. These days, it's everywhere. You know, if you're copying some criticism for something, it's there all the time. You know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it gets reshared. I find like it does pass pretty quick though. Even on social media, people just forget because they're just so inundated with content.
Well, they
just go, oh yeah, and it's like a big thing for like a day, and it's like, oh fuck, what's next?
That's it, and I guess that's the downside and the dark side of social media is that, you know, people can say things and can go ham on all this stuff that they probably wouldn't say to your face, or if you pulled them aside and said, hey, let's have a conversation about that, it'd be a different conversation than what's happening online. So
it's that simple, right? I got really annoyed the other day, and I was this close to like dropping some stranger my mobile phone number. I was going to like staunch up in a direct message and go, well, just call me then. Here's my number. Like, let's talk it out. Like, I dare you. You know. But I'm like, nah, maybe I should.
Maybe you shouldn't hand out your phone number to people you don't know.
No,
but that's you know. But I believe in that. I believe in having a conversation with someone and just meeting them on a personal and human level. And there's so many nuances and, you know, grey areas when you write stuff in a fucking text. Like, I think, to me, I'd feel better about having a difficult conversation face to face than having a fucking back and forth over Facebook Messenger for days.
And, you know, and like the tone.
Oh, God.
The tone and the sarcasm can't be detected.
Sarcasm, you can't, you know.
Can't detect the sarcasm.
Mate,
How do you say sarcasm?
That's how Alexi Sales says sarcasm.
Forgive me for forgetting. Like Alexi Sale was which one of the characters?
He was their landlord. He played their landlord. That's the comedian's name. I
forget actual names.
Yeah.
It was like Rick Mile was. Rick,
Adrian Edmondson.
Yeah. Was Vivian.
Yeah.
That's all I can remember. Who was Neil? Do you remember Neil?
Oh, I'm going to get... My friends are going to roast me for not knowing this. I can't think of it. But I will give you a good tidbit from this. A friend of mine years ago used to own a board game. It was Adrian Edmondson's board game called Bastard. And it was like it was like this incredible board game, and all I remember from the board game was one of the cards that you had to pick up. You had to talk dirty to a plant for a minute and not say the same thing twice. Man, I wish someone's got that board game somewhere. Please send it to me.
Wait. It was the Young Ones board game.
No, it wasn't a Young Ones, but it was Adrian Edmondson's board game called Bastard.
Oh, right.
So it was his own one. Yeah. So good.
Nice bit of merch.
Yeah.
Excellent. So tell us where you grew up.
I grew up just over the river here in Fern Bay.
Which is, for those, because I have people who listen all over the world.
Okay, sure. So Fern Bay is a very, very small suburb on the other side of the Stockton Bridge in Newcastle. On your way to the airport, if you blink, if you open your packet of chips and take a few out, you miss it on the drive.
That's because I'm new to Newcastle. It's like near Stockton.
Yeah, so if you go over the bridge and you go left to go to Williamtown, and you go right to go to Stockton.
Yeah.
If you go left, you'll pass through. It's on the main road, and I lived on the main road over the road from the golf course, house backed onto the river in Fern Bay. great place to grow up and to spend my, childhood.
Is that how you reflect on your childhood, with fond memories?
Not at all entirely, but
Why is that?
Look, it's probably for another podcast.
Okay.
Look, my folks split, and we went around the place, and but the time growing up in Fern Bay, skateboarding and surfing and all that stuff was fucking awesome. Like, I was really stoked to be like a early teen, like spending my time there. We had the river out the back of the house. It was a short bike ride to the beach, through the bush. We had like pretty much everything at our doorstep there, except a skate park, except like anything like to do, like any place where you could really kind of skateboard. Me and my best friend Dean Clark grew up skating together and like obsessing over it, getting like totally fucking like bonkers about skateboarding together. I think like my dad helped me make this like kicker ramp, not like, it was more like a really short bank. It didn't have any like anything to no transition, nothing to it. And we just would kind of almost like wally out of it.
Nice.
We didn't know.
Steep as well.
Yeah, steep and short, but and so we just used to pull that out onto the footpath out the front of my house and skate that. And maybe for a little bit the tennis court in Fern Bay. We used to hit that a little bit, but nothing much else there. But yeah, and I again like cannot remember like the moment that I like was like skateboarding for me. I just remember it being there.
Well, I've got a different question for you. These are pretty standard questions I ask most guests, actually. And I want to know, did you find your people in your people in skateboarding or music first? Do you remember that? Because, and when you mentioned that your parents split, I mean, it's just such a commonality amongst so many people that are drawn to skateboarding. I mean, me included.
Yep.
I just found my people. I found acceptance, belonging that I wasn't getting elsewhere. So I don't know if that you can relate to that, but
well, I'd say both equally. Like, I found my so my people, my friend Dean. That was us.
Dean.
It was just Dean and I in Fern Bay went skating. That was it. There was no other skaters in Fern Bay. There's no one else.
Wasn't Dean Wells?
No, Dean Clark.
Okay.
Yeah, you mate. A mate of mine who lived around in Fern Bay. We went to school together. We listened to punk music together. We just obsessed over skateboarding together. There are other kids in our area that had a skateboard, but maybe just weren't as cooked for it as we were. Okay. So we used to spend every afternoon like skating, and when Stockton Ramp was built, the old one, the concrete one, I used to get my dad or his dad or his mum to drop us there, and we'd spend like 8 hours there. We'd just go there in the morning and stay there until dark, until they came and picked us up, and we used to like I could do early grab backside airs. He could do hand plants. and like what blows my mind, I went back there a couple of years ago and tried to grind that ramp, tried to like do a backside 50-50, could not grind it. Like, obviously lots of years have passed between that. But we used to play a game called 50-50 smash ups on it, where there'd be three of us riding the ramp, and you'd grind, and people would have to try and catch up to you, and then you drop in, and then they come up behind you, and you just trace each other and try and fucking knock each other off the board. And we used to grind the whole thing, just mucking around, just playing, not even properly skating. That blows my mind. And going back and trying to even just do one little 20 centimeter, not even 20 centimeter grind, couldn't do it.
And be stoked on that.
Yeah.
Well,
But to answer your question.
Yeah.
I found my people, Dean and I, still friends to this day, still talk about skateboarding, and stuff. But in music, I found my people as well, like equally, just more, there were just more out there that shared that
you could connect
at the time.
with.
Yeah, for sure.
Like back in that early days, like what music, do you remember what bands and music you were into? Like what were you drawn to with your friend Dean? Do you remember?
Well, it was the Hard-Ons, it was the Meanies.
Mudhoney. I was thinking of Mudhoney because we went to Mudhoney.
Yeah. Used to listen to Mudhoney, like, Nirvana, all that like, early 90s grunge stuff. But yeah, like Bad Religion, NoFX, Pennywise, all that stuff we just like went crazy on. But yeah, equally like, we used to draw Hard-Ons things on our boards and, Mass Appeal and all that stuff. Like fucking still my favourite bands to this day, for sure.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's so epic. As you were saying that, I was thinking of a good friend of mine, or an old friend of mine, Tim Donnelly, if you're out there. Tim, Riv, we used to call him. And he was that guy who was just, he skated and we met him through skating, but he was just a music connoisseur. He's always in the record stores and stuff.
Yeah.
And I just remember, like, he was like 3 or 4 years older than me. And so when I was like 12, he was like 15 or 16. And I remember he introduced me to G.G. Allen.
Okay. Okay, that was the first introduction to punk music, all right?
Pretty much, dude.
Okay, wow. All right.
I was like, what is this? Like, this is, and it was like, showed me videos of like G.G. Allen, like on stage, just doing the most brutal shit. Like, literally,
yeah.
and hurting himself. And and to this day, I'm like, I don't know if it was actually good for me.
Don't know if that's my thing. Immediately, maybe not. Yeah.
But then you triggered another memory when you were saying that. Like that early 90s stuff, I remember when my friend at school goes, dude, after school, come to my house. We're going to my room. I'm going to play this song. It's amazing. I'm like, okay. And he's like, don't let my mum know. And he puts it on. It was Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah.
Killing in the name of.
Yeah, man,
and it was just like, I'll never, to this day, I've got goosebumps. Like,
yeah.
I just never forget the feeling. And then, like, when it was building up to the end of it, and it's like, fuck you. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's like, we were just in there just looking at each other going, no way. And he's like, don't tell my mom. I was like, okay.
Well, that's funny. I remember.
Do you have moments like that?
I absolutely. I tell you one, again, memory is terrible, but there's some things I remember like so explicitly. So the first band that I had when I was a kid was with my friend Jam and my friend Ryan. It was called Stolen Youth, and we were like just obsessed with like Screech and Weasel, Minor Threat, Bad Religion, and I remember one day Jeremy going, we're at his house in Stockton. It was this incredible sunny day, and he's like, oh, you got to listen to this record, this band. Propagandy, they got this album called How to Clean Everything, and he put that on, and we sat out on the front step of his house, and that record was just fucking blaring out into the neighborhood, and I was like total light bulb moment, like this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. I was so blown away, and still a massive fan of that band, and that was a moment for me, 100%. And then that one, to continue on, it's like the obsession with that band made me want, like I would sit down in front of the stereo and try to work out the chords that they were playing. Because I was like, that doesn't sound like a normal bar chord. There's something else going on there. And I just would obsess and go, oh, I think that's what they're doing here, Like, and yeah, just totally, blew my mind.
Wow. Because I wanted to know, like, when did you pick up an instrument for the first time? Was it around that time?
It's before that, actually. Before punk music, I was so fucking mad about like Bon Jovi and Def Leppard and Skid Row. Dude. Still love Skid Row though. I was obsessed with all that, and that's that's me when I'm like eight or 9. Yeah, man, fuck, totally. Blew my mind as a kid. Just wanted to be a guitarist like Richie Sambora for sure. And then, and so like I started like I think I remember my nan bought me a guitar. I think I got an electric guitar, probably about like 8 or something or 9. realized it was way harder than I thought it would be, and I think I like gave it up like almost immediately. And a guitar sat in the cupboard for a year or so, and then when I was a bit older, I maybe just had the ability to just sit still and just spend the time with it and get around it. And that's when, the obsession started, like playing guitar. And, just would literally lock myself in my room, like saying to myself, like, you need to sit with this for hours and just learn how to play and just get into it.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to ask too many deep questions, but like, I'm going to ask, is it like a form of escapism from your reality?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Totally.
Like,
totally.
That's common, right? For
Totally.
a lot of musicians.
Yeah.
So you did feel like you need, and I don't want to like press details too much or anything like that, but I just feel like it is nice for people to hear and makes them feel less isolated in maybe what they experienced.
For sure.
Is that
for
okay?
Sure.
So,
yeah, man. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So
totally.
you were kind of trying to,
Totally. Just needed to just get out of all that other shit and just like, I love this. I love music. I love these bands. I want to fucking play like Richie Sambora. I want to sound like Warren.
The drummer from Def Leppard.
Oh, totally. I
pour some sugar
probably
on me.
could never be as good as him. but like silly kind of. I remember a moment I remember my dad getting upset at me because I made like glue out of like water and flour and glued all these like pictures out of guitar mags to my wall in my bedroom.
What do they call that in the streets again?
Like
when they do that?
like pasting.
Pasting.
Yeah.
Is that a name for it?
I'm not sure.
Maybe it is. Anyway, keep going.
But that shit doesn't come off easy.
It's like wallpaper, dude.
It's pretty much wallpapered pictures of Def Leppard and Skid Row and Warrant to my bedroom wall.
Dude.
But I had a picture of the guitarist from Warrant on my wall, and I was like, oh, his tuning pegs on his guitar are different to mine. I'm going to tune them to his. And then I was like, wow, that sounds really bad.
Just from the picture.
Just from the picture.
Wait.
Learned that one real quick.
Warren did the song Cherry Pie.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But yeah, got obsessed with guitar pretty early, and then I guess it was when I went to high school and I met my mates that I played in the band with, my first band like before high school, primary school in Stockton, but we started actually jamming together when we started high school, and we didn't we went to like all ages shows here in Newcastle. There was a venue it was a bowling club called Morrow Park Bowling Club, and shows used to happen there. And I remember the first show that I went to saw like a band, No Reason, Disengage, Angry Earth Mother, and Druid or something. And it was a total mixed bill. It's like hardcore, like No Reason were more along the lines of like Jawbreaker or Peg Boy, like that kind of more melodic kind of punk stuff. Druid were like a grunge band. Angry Earth Mother were like a punk band, and we were just, as kids, like blown away by these bands. But we never knew how to get a gig or to put a gig on or whatever. Like, and we lived in Stockton again. Like I was in Fern Bay. The rest of them were in Stockton. And what we would do, we just put on our own shows in our drummer's shed. And we'd have like 100 kids.
I was going to ask, like, wait. Just people just come over.
Yeah,
did you do flyers?
No, we'd tell everyone that we were going to play, and it would just be us, because we just do like Bad Religion, Screech and Weasel, Minor Threat covers. Like we had like fucking hour and a half worth of songs.
Wait. And so the parents were cool, or your mum was cool?
Oh, maybe we done it when Jem's mum wasn't home.
And the neighbours were cool?
No, they weren't cool. No, they didn't know. we were 14, 15. We used to put on shows. I remember we used to borrow an amp from the video store on Mitchell Street. We used to take our skateboards down and put it on the skateboards, because it was this huge like kind of like a sub or something. I don't know what it was, but then we'd push it all the way back down Mitchell Street to Jem's house and put it in the shed, and we'd set up everything to make it look like a show.
No way.
Yeah. And used to put on our own shows.
Man, this town, I swear, and even the musical talent that has come out of it. And you were talking earlier about how, it's got such a high concentration of bands and musicians. And I work at a performing arts school, and I was talking to the guys there, and they were saying how it's got more live music venues per capita.
Yeah, okay.
And I just, in your opinion, why do you think this area is breeding that?
I really don't know
any observations on it?
No, not at all. I've thought about it my entire life.
Have you?
Yeah, I've always wondered why that is. Because, we live in this beautiful coastal town that, incredible beaches. The coastline here, I would say, when people go, oh, need to go to Byron and go to the beach, it's fuck that. Just go to Susan Gilmore or go to any beach around here. It's incredible. It's the best. And then you've got this heavy industry, historically, right? Growing up here, it was BHP, and it's a port town. It's, coal comes in and out. It's a huge kind of industry area, which is very blue collar, working class, right? And then there is just these incredibly creative, artistic people here as well. I don't know. It's just kind of pretty badass, I'd say.
It is. It's this strange, what's the term? Maybe almost like a juxtaposition of what you think it would be because of exactly what you said, the blue collar thing you think would sort of pervade the culture.
For sure. And we used to have you can cut this bit from the podcast. I'm just having to think. I
don't edit. I
have these seniors moments at time, Shannon. This fucking
Can I stop you there though?
Yeah.
Is this been in recent years, this feeling of you can't remember things, or have you always just been?
I've always been pretty bad. Yeah.
Do you think it's a byproduct of creativity?
No.
Because you're thinking creatively?
No.
I'm going to analyse you.
I've actually, not to get too heavy, but I've recently found it's actually a byproduct of trauma.
Okay.
Yeah. Bad memory. It's total, yeah. Yep. It's pretty, pretty kind of heavy thing to think, and to.
Yeah. Interesting. That's really interesting. That's making me reflect on myself, actually.
Yeah, but read into it and check it out. It's it's pretty wild. Just again on an offside, more of a conversational thing. But the other night at work, I had to I worked back and done lighting for this event, Newcastle Writers Festival event, and one of the guests who came to speak, what's her name? Lucia Osborne Crowley. She was a reporter who got to sit in the courtroom for 5 weeks while that Ghislaine Maxwell got tried, Jeffrey Epstein's wife. Pretty crazy kind of shit. So when she was talking about, she wrote a book about it, and she was talking about how all of the women that were involved testified and stuff, how they were kind of ridiculed by the prosecutors, saying oh, you can't remember that and you can't remember this, and oh, you say this but you can't remember that, and they're saying, well, then you obviously that didn't happen. And she said, well, I would argue that actually proves that it did because of the science around it, of saying bad memory kind of links up that. So that was pretty wild.
So they're trying to find holes in the argument.
Yeah, trying to pinch them out and say no, that didn't happen to you because you can't remember the details. You can't. What were they? You don't know what they were wearing. You don't. You're lying. Yeah, it's no. Yeah. So yeah.
That is really interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Definitely. It was a really cool, very cool combo. Yeah, to kind of hear. Yeah.
Wow.
But man. No, I just say it's seniors moment for me, man. It's just What's that?
Speaking of seniors moment, dude, like, I need glasses.
You there? Yep,
Are
I'm
you-
there. I'm already there,
You
man.
wear them?
I wear them to read for sure.
I'm getting to the point where I can't pretend anymore. Like,
Well,
wow, I can't.
well-
I can't believe I'm saying this publicly yet.
Well,
I just don't want to accept it.
For sure.
Did you go
it's
through
a thing.
that?
I did. When I first went to get my eyes tested to get glasses,
Yeah.
I said to my optometrist, I was like, well, either I need glasses or can you make my arm longer so I can read stuff? Because I was just like this and going, I can't see that.
It's
Yeah.
heavy. Hey?
Yeah.
I can't. And like in the mornings, like, it's the worst. Like I can't really see properly till around 9 o'clock.
Until you
seriously,
get
I'm just
going,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, and it's like,
Man, get them. It's good. Just.
do you feel sophisticated when you wear them?
Yeah, I feel a little bit smarter. Yeah. Even though I'm looking at fucking memes on Instagram.
Does
you
your
know.
missus like?
She wears
She
glasses in.
Okay.
Yeah, she's worn
so-
glasses her entire life.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she liked you wearing them as well. Makes her. She think
Maybe it makes me look smarter. At least it's some positive.
dude, you are smart. I can tell, man. Listen, I do. Look, I know with your solo stuff, like your music does carry a lot of emotion, and it's like storytelling, right?
Yeah, I guess I've never, I appreciated and loved all, storytelling, troubadours, Paul Kelly especially, I think it's incredible talent to do that. And I've only kind of had a crack at it for a few songs, like trying to create a story and do that. But I think for me, it's just cathartic for me to write songs and just to get things off my chest. And I think that you kind of can't go wrong if you are honest and tell the real story and lay it out there, because at the end of the day, that's your real story, and people can't go, well, you said this and it's not fucking right or whatever. It's like, well, that's how I feel, and that's what's going on.
Did you like high school?
No, I didn't really. Going back to like that time, high school was pretty hard, but the band, us playing the band and going skating and everything, that I just wanted to fucking do that 100%. And it helped at times. And I hope, Jem's mum's not listening, but she was a school teacher, and so I used to get the bus from Fern Bay and then get off in Stockton and go to his house. I used to have to wait till maybe 8 o'clock until she left, and then we go to his house, and then we just go skating and surfing all day and jamming and stuff. We took so many days off in high school. I can't remember. I don't know how I ever got away with it.
But the social connection was far surpassed.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the positive on it. Isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's almost like it's like it bonds people together, the whole, truanting school and doing that stuff. It's becomes the conduit for good, lifelong friendships.
Totally.
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, we were lucky.
I don't condone it though.
I hope my son doesn't do that. He's going to high school next year, and I'll kick his ass if he does that. No,
Yeah.
wait. But we, we didn't get up to anything crazy. We weren't we were just surfing and skating, and we couldn't sneak down to the takeaway shop to get a burger or anything like that. We just had to eat whatever was in the house.
So you weren't seen.
Yeah, that's right. We were very conscious of it. And then Jem's mum would get home after we'd get home from school, so we'd still have our school uniform on and stuff. So we were
But you graduated.
I dropped out in year 11. Okay. I left in year 11. Gotcha. I was like, I can't see myself finishing year 12 and getting through it. Anyway.
What'd you do then from there?
I ended up, actually through hanging out at my mate Jem's house, his mum said, can you do some work for me? And I painted their bathroom and a bedroom and stuff. I didn't know how to paint. I was 16 or 17, right? And she just went, do you want to do this? I'll pay you $100 or whatever. In 1995, that was probably a lot of money. But and then she said I'd done such a good job. She was like, oh, a friend of mine, he's a he's a tradie and he like fixes up houses and does all this stuff. And do you want to get a job with him? And I ended up helping him renovate his house in Adamstown. So like, you know, like from Fern Bay, I used to ride my bike to the Stockton Ferry Wharf and then get the ferry and then ride my bike to his house and done all that work for him, which was really good. And he kind of took me on 1 day a week. So at the time I was like 17, 18. I was working 6 days a week, like doing that stuff, and really regret it to this day. He said he couldn't, like, you know, give me full-time work, but he would like give me some work here and there. And there was this thing called the Land and Environmental Action Program, and it was like rehabilitation of areas with like trees and stuff like that. And it said it was like part of DSS, which was Centrelink a million years ago, right? And it said like, you know, guaranteed full-time work out of this. And I told this guy, I was like, sorry, man, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go and do this instead. And that lasted 6 months and I never got a job out of it at all.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a fucking lie. Goddamn government bullshit. But and then yeah, kind of was pretty much on the dole for a long time, and then started doing bands more.
Were you gigging in that time?
I was gigging a lot. Okay. Yeah. Stolen Youth were done by that stage. Jem actually went on to play drums in band Disengage that, you know, we went and saw when we were kids. He joined Disengage and I joined the band Pitfall, who were not like a hardcore band from here. So we kind of like, we were these young'uns that got, you know, into playing with these bands that were a few years older than us, which was great. It was a great experience. And then, yeah, from there I just was just playing music a lot and, just living on the dole and didn't have a job and was poor, but like I had a band and I was doing gigs. So I was like happy.
Yeah,
stoked.
dude.
Yeah.
Just going back to that conservation job, like, were you initially attracted to it because it was conservation?
Yeah.
So is it safe to say you had a passion for protecting the environment?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was really interested in that. Like, you know, I turned vegetarian when I was like 17 and still am. And yeah, I was really, really kind of keen to get involved in that. And I thought, oh, what a great opportunity. You know, I've got this good job at the moment. Like, this is pretty cool, but I'm working 6 days a week. I'm like flogged and you know, maybe this is a better option for me. And and it just didn't work out. Yeah.
Like, would you say, like, has activism been part of your story? Like, have you, when I say activism, like actively advocating for causes that you believe in?
Yeah, absolutely. Around that time, actually, when I first went vegetarian, I got involved in the local animal liberation group here in Newcastle, and I'd go to meetings and got involved quite actively with that group. I think now that time has passed, I can maybe talk about some things.
I was hoping.
I'm pretty sure. But yeah, I got involved, done some quite direct actions of setting up video cameras in abattoirs and filming things that were going on that weren't very good at all. Some of that footage made it onto A Current Affair back in the day. Was pretty exciting time. I was 18 years old and I was like keen to get involved, and yeah.
That's pretty militant.
Yeah, well, it was more like surveillance. It was actually not militant, like.
Maybe that's a bad word.
Yeah, like.
Sorry,
look,
wrong
no,
word.
that's
wrong
okay.
word.
That's okay.
What would we describe
it wasn't
as?
like we weren't destroying any property.
No,
we weren't doing anything like that. We were actually going into these places and actually gathering evidence of what was happening in these places.
I want to retract the word militant. It is direct.
Direct action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Oh, that's all right. That's okay. You know, I've had times where we've, I guess, you know, I can give some like not all the details,
Sorry,
but
dude, I'm hanging off you everywhere.
But one of my favorite stories that I'm lucky that I made it out alive from, really, was me and this other woman who was at the time maybe like 60 something, right? It was her and I was probably 20, she was 60. We went to this abattoir and one of our crew had set up a camera in a vent over where they would, I won't give too much detail, but where these animals were slaughtered, and they'd stopped the vent. They had this battery that ran the camera for hours and hours and hours, and we were kind of brought in to retract it and to get it out of there, and then to get the footage back. And it was 2 a.m. or something like that. We had to trek into this abattoir and sneak onto a roof. And as we were up there, I grabbed the batteries, and they were like big, like solid, like probably half a car battery. And I put it into the backpack and put it over my shoulder, and then went to walk off. And it was so heavy, it opened the zip on the backpack, fell out and hit the tin roof, and like made this huge bang. And these abattoirs, like, they work through the night, right? There's people there. There were people there working underneath us. There was people everywhere around. And so we both just like laid down and were quiet. And I was just laying there going, oh my God, we're fucked. Like, people are going to come up here and they're going to be so pissed at us. Like, they'll probably beat the shit out of us and who knows what. And then I popped my head up over the edge of the roof to look out to another building. And when I'd done that, there was a floodlight that was pointing our way, but it was at the crest. So I basically popped my head up, and my head was like illuminated, and there was a guy having a cigarette looking directly at me. And then I laid back down again. I was like, fuck, like, we're done, we're gone. So we laid there for another 20 minutes, just, let's not make a sound, let's not do anything. No one came, and we got our stuff together and got off there because like dawn was coming. We're like, we're going to get caught in like sunlight. And we snuck out. We got down off the roof. We got out through the property and got out of there and we never caught.
No way.
But I was like, I think that was the last time I was like, I think I'm done with this. That was so stressful and like just horrible feeling.
I mean, can I ask if you ever were arrested for it or anything like that? Was there ever any like legal stuff?
I was arrested once, but that was an action where we sat in a battery farm in Canberra, and that was kind of the plan a bit.
Gotcha.
There was a lot of people there, a lot of people that actually got arrested. Well, like got detained. Like we got taken to jail in Canberra and put into a cell for like 5 hours and then let go. Gotcha. There was nothing around that. But but that was a bit of a kind of the reason, to make a bit of fuss and to get on the news and bring attention to that area.
Attention.
Yeah.
Many years, like when you were around 18 to 20. So like we're talking over 20 years ago.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Long time ago. But yeah,
do you think Australians are complacent as a general population?
I think, like, on the wholesale, I think that the old she'll be right is a bit of a cultural thing, Yeah. But I do believe that there are a lot of incredibly passionate and organised, amazing people that we're lucky to have, in our country that do important work, like across a lot of areas. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's good to get that perspective on it. Thanks for sharing. That's a pretty interesting story. I was just like hanging off you everywhere. I thought you were going to say you did get bashed because he's seen you and you popped your head up. I'm glad you're okay.
No, luckily. Yeah.
Dude, yeah. Like I was thinking about what I was going to talk to you about today, and like I know you've been in like, would you describe like your earlier bands as like hardcore punk?
Yeah, basically. For sure.
Or punk bands? Punk hardcore?
Pretty much, yeah.
And like I've always seen punk bands as like if I had to compare them to skateboarders, I see them as like the skateboarders that go and make DIY spots.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and even when you
okay,
talk that story of like when you're 14, you did a DIY like concert
yeah,
in
yeah.
in the garage. Oh my god, I'm gonna shut this window. This is so funny. Welcome to my thanks. Yeah, and so I guess like that. I mean, would you agree with me if I said like there's a real crossover between like that DIY and punk?
Absolutely.
Skateboarding. Yeah. I don't know. It just sort of came to me.
For sure.
That's a pretty
For sure. Punk,
interesting
like that's,
perspective.
I feel like to me, like there's so many, everyone's got all of their versions of what a punk is, but like to me, a punk is someone who sees something that you need to do, whether it's call out shit or create a space, create a venue, start a band, start a zine. Like it's like it's anti-capitalist stuff where you know you can do it yourself. That's it. Yeah. You don't need backing of this and or
like
whatever.
It's like, independent.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
so like going back to some of your earlier gigs when you were first starting out, like, you know, it wasn't so much about how good the production was.
No, man. Our first records were terrible.
Right. So exactly. And that's
we
what
had no idea.
But it was about like, let's get this music out.
Absolutely. And there are so many bands that I still love today. Like I listen to records by far out, like bands like Cop Out and, like Los Crudos. Hear those records. They're rough around the edges, but man, like the meaning behind it and the way that they play those songs it totally outweighs and totally fucking smashes whatever the production is, right? And you can't kind of replicate that stuff. Like you can't, I don't know, you kind of overproduce some messages and what bands are doing and how they're saying it, and it loses that spark.
Yeah, I mean, do you think like some bands get too caught up in that and forget about what the core of what they're trying to do is?
Look,
or
I think
core of their message?
Sure. I think it's good on both sides. I love well-produced records. I love records that just hit you and you just go, oh my God, that's the gnarliest thing I've ever heard. And it's so incredibly put together. But also for me, the biggest thing I get out of music all the time is the lyrics and what people are actually singing about and how they sing about it. That's what gets me. And that gets me in a totally different way than a really good sounding record. Like if it's incredible lyrics and fucking like with such visceral meaning, it gives me shivers down my spine. Like that's what I look for in a band all the time.
Really? So when you were having your band meetings early on, say with Conation,
yeah.
Were you having these conversations?
No. We'd never talk about that stuff. We would just write songs, like
just turn up to band practice and
totally.
Go, okay, I got
a song. Here. This is what I want to do.
Okay,
yeah, and it was just completely
organic
like that. Yeah. We were lucky. I think we were lucky. In the early days of Conation, Fuzz Ryan, who played bass in Stolen Youth, the first band I played in, he was actually the first guitarist in Conation when we started.
Right.
And then he left. We done a 7-inch, done a split record. Actually, again, a split record with the band Fuck All the Human Filth, which Jem, who was the drummer in our first band, he played drums in that band. So we done this split together. And then Ryan left. And then we got a friend Nick, who played guitar for a few years. But I think the thing at the end of the day was Murray, Dale and I were on the same wavelength. We all wanted the same thing. We were just on the fucking, in the carriage, in the train together.
Gotcha.
I think the other guys were there, but they weren't as into it in the way that we were together. Gotcha. And I think if it wasn't for those guys, like, the way that we understood what we wanted to do, it really wasn't a literal conversation of like, okay, we're going to do this and I'm going to say this, and it wasn't a conversation or anything. It was just we shared that musical language together. We understood without saying what we wanted to do.
Wow.
Yeah,
pretty
it was
special.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So, Matt, do you think maybe I don't know, how do you measure success then, or how did you measure success?
For me, like really, it's always been from being that same rat-ass kid living in Fern Bay, sitting in front of my fucking stereo, playing along to my favourite bands. My success was I just wanted to play shows and wanted to write my own music. And luckily for me, you know, I'm never ever will, you know, forget. But there are bands that I used to sit and listen to and play along to when I was a kid that I have either played with or toured with overseas.
Gotcha.
And to me, that fucking blows my mind. Like that to me is success. I've got to play with bands that I listened to when I was a kid. That still blows my mind. Like it's incredible.
Amazing, dude.
So that to me is success.
Rattle off some names. Rattle off some bands that you like.
Well, yeah.
Can you share some?
Yeah. Well, Propaganda. You know,
wow.
That moment I had. You know, listening to that record to then years later support them in Newcastle. You know, I used to write to Todd from Propaganda and I Spy. We used to send letters, you know, when I was, you know, living in Fern Bay, you know, wrote back to him way back when.
And he'd write back?
He'd write back, man. He'd send me photos of like I Spy and stuff. I'd done interviews for a zine and things like that. And he'd take that much trust to say, actually, I need the photos back. You can photocopy them, but you need to send them back to me. And I did, like, you know, like that was pretty wild. Like, yeah, to play a show with them at the Bar on the Hill, which was 10 years after I first saw them. So things like that. Like, yeah, I remember sitting when they played. I remember sitting side of stage, just sitting down on my amp, just like watching them going, this is fucking insane. This is so cool.
Pinching yourself, dude.
Yeah.
I got goosebumps just hearing that, man.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So to me, that's my measure of success. Like, I'm happy, like, knowing that I got to do that. Yeah. Not everyone gets to do that. Like
well, they don't.
Yeah, yeah.
But do you think if you didn't spend all those years on the dole gigging, do you think you would have had those moments?
Maybe not. You know what? I've never thought about that.
And was that the payoff? I don't know. Like maybe not being able to save the deposit for the house during that time when most people are, like from when they leave school and to their 20s, they're trying to get ahead in life.
Absolutely. Yeah. I got my chops up in different ways.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. I guess, yeah. Pretty lucky. But, you know, and the continuing measure to me is just to keep doing it. You know, I remember, you know, way back around those early days, there was a distro in Australia called Spiral Objective, and it was a record label as well. It was run out of Adelaide, South Australia, by Greg and Annette. And Greg Wood sang in a band called Price of Silence. Incredible band. One of my most favourite bands ever. And I remember when like he came up to Newcastle once and came and stayed with us one night. And I remember going like, wow, he's like 30 and he's still into hardcore. That's crazy. I wonder if I'm still like into hardcore and like playing in bands when I'm 30. And that blew my mind because he was the oldest guy at the time that I knew who was into hardcore and playing in bands. And he was 30. That fucking blew my mind. I was like,
so old.
Yeah, so old. And I remember just thinking that at the time, going, wow, I hope I'm still, you know, into it then. And then, so, you know, here I am, way past that age of 30. But, yeah. So,
dude, you're looking good, man. You look healthy.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, being in that environment all the time, it's heavy. You're surrounded by heavy partying.
For sure.
How did you seem like you've survived it pretty well.
Yeah.
Some don't.
I think luckily for me, I didn't drink for a long time, like probably not until I was about maybe 26. Oh, no, sorry, before that. Probably about 23 or so is when I maybe started drinking.
Still regarded as almost late in our culture.
For sure. Yeah, in those early days, I was like a straight edge kid. Like I wasn't interested in drinking. But I think like, I love playing music so much that I'd never want that to get in the way of playing a good show and doing what I need to do, you know.
Yeah.
Definitely nudged it sometimes, but you know, like that's always been there that I wanted to always do.
Gotcha.
Do what I love, right, and
stopped you from going to those like deeper levels of
for sure.
Of maybe maybe leading to substance abuse.
For sure. Like yeah.
Because you would have seen a lot of that in your scene.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a big
for
one,
sure.
right?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I was thinking like growing up for me, like punk music and the punk scene and skateboarding really did go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, and then I don't know, like, I mean, are you still observing the skate scene and skate culture?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
yeah.
you're still rolling.
Well, I've had to kind of pull up stumps a little bit in the last year. I've actually I've got carpal tunnel in my right hand, and I've had operation on it with my left hand.
Gotcha.
And last year I went and had a skate Newcastle Bowl. I was like, if I can't really skate that much, and I've got another fucking thing in my spine as well, just old man shit. But I was like, if I can't really skate that much, maybe I'll just hit the bowl and carve, right? And I'll just do that. And I can ate shit in the deep end on a frontside carve.
Yeah.
And like literally flipped and like hit my head. I had a helmet on, but like hit my head, slammed and like hit my hands. I think I like might have like broken something in my right hand, like a little bone. And I had a moment going, I think maybe I'm like not done, but like I need to just not do that.
Yeah, but you've still got the heart of a skateboarder. I guarantee you still cruise around the streets and you see a set of stairs and go, oh, like
for
there's
sure.
a spot. You're looking at
for
spots.
Sure. Yeah.
But I guess like what I was like, the question I sort of want to ask you is like that sort of like that, you know, that punk music and skate scene, that DIY sort of hardcore vibe. Like, do you think the spirit of that is lost now in skate culture?
It's a hard one for me to really answer. Like, I don't know. No, I would say it's not. Like, as you were saying before, like DIY spot stuff, like that's cool as shit. Like, you know, people building their own stuff and like, and just having that eye and going, oh, that's not really a spot yet, but I can see what it can be. I think that's that essence there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. DIY spot making is like, for me, I think it taps into what you were saying before about like people who create zines or start punk bands, have a message, maybe a podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of a little bit anti-establishment, like, you know, you're not going to build us a skate park. We'll go and build it. There's this vacant block of, you know, concrete. We're just going to build our own.
Totally.
And I've got some friends down in Wollongong who literally did that because the council down there won't or just hasn't built a skate park.
Since Fairy Meadow.
You know that stuff.
I'm scared of Fairy Meadow, man.
Since Fairy Meadow. Yeah. They did build another one at Bellambi, but like it's a vast region.
For sure.
It's like probably it's the same size as Newcastle, probably a bit longer and more spread out.
Yeah.
And so like the density of skate parks. So they just literally started GoFundMe and just did this.
That's sick. That's awesome. Because like again,
and it's epic.
Well, you know, as skateboarders, especially in those early 2000s, like we all know, all those prefab parks that popped up everywhere around here were just fucking cookie cutted. Like they were terrible, but they just, it's like, here's this quarter and a bank and it's the same thing. And in this suburb, it's the same thing. It was just shit. And that to me, like it's punk and it's,
you think it's punk?
Anti-establishment to go, no, we don't want the government, the local council, local government doesn't really listen to what we want. And actually they've just made they've made a deal with these contractors and they're going to supply all these things and sort it out. And it's just the same shit in a different suburb.
Yes.
But you know, you got skateboarders involved in going, no, we want this bowl corner here with like pool coping and then we're going to have a slappy curb here. And, you know, they're just going to make it that they want how they want to make it. Yeah. That to me, like that's what like punk is, or you know, like or in a band where you just go, no, the bands that I'm hearing right now are shit, and everyone sounds the same. We want to do something else that it sits outside of that. It's the same same thought process, you know.
Sits outside of the status quo a little bit. Yeah, maybe now that we talk about it and you explain it like that, maybe it still is alive and well.
I think so, for sure. I think that's the only reason why it might be alive and well.
I mean, it's definitely become more sanitized, skateboarding. I mean, it was pretty raw when we were young. Like,
yeah. But I think that always exists there. I think the two are not mutually exclusive. Like, you know, you'll have SLS competitions, and, you know, that are like all these parks that are like perfectly built, like, you know, incredibly made. But then, you know, you got these DIYs that are just like rough as guts. And for me, my favorite things to skate since forever have been the things that are shit to skate.
Oh, dude!
If I can get a frontside rock on that, I'm golden. Like I feel like I've conquered the mountain. You know, like that to me is like, you know, something rough and shit and like horrible and hard to skate. Like that's awesome.
I can't believe you said that, because I interviewed this guy, Danny Van, last week, and he was saying the same thing. Like, those really hard to skate spots, like, it levels the ability out. So you can have a really good skater and an average skater, and then but the spot will level them out, and then they can like, they're on the same level and they can compete against each other or just push each other. So
that's right. Yeah, I love that stuff,
dude. I love that you brought that up, man. That's so rad.
Oh man, I think it totally is alive and well.
Yeah,
I think it's always got to be there. Like, that's probably what's kept skateboarding going. You know, the kind of foundations of it.
Yeah, and you know what? Like, I do get a bit negative on it sometimes when I see how corporate it's become in a lot of ways. But I think you're right. Like, that's just one piece of the pie.
It is, yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah, not get caught up on that, because I don't think that will ever change.
Yeah.
And I also think, like, going back to what you're saying, like you said, you hurt yourself just carving in a bowl. It really does highlight how hard skateboarding is.
It is,
and
yeah.
I think, like, you know, over the years I've seen, like, you know, the X Games and other big corporate people come in and try to make skateboarding mainstream. But I think due to the difficulty of it, I don't think it will ever be like the next basketball or the next soccer, because it just literally because of the nature of it.
Sure.
And people have tried over the years, and, you know, SLS has managed to have some success, but I don't think there's any more space for any more corporate structures like that.
For sure.
They've got it. And I see there's like another bunch of skaters bringing this thing called the Professional Skateboarding League, like Mike Moe and that.
Yeah.
And I just don't think the space is there for it.
And it doesn't interest me. And, like, you know, I'm sure there are skaters out there that it does interest, and, you know, maybe the way that they skate in competitions leans towards that. Like, you know, but like one thing, you know, a lot of discussions I've had with, you know, colleagues or people after the Olympics, and, you know, seeing skateboarding in the Olympics, right? And then, you know, having these conversations, like, you know, Shane O'Neill, for example, like the way he skated in the Olympics, it's like, that's not indicative of how fucking good he is. Like,
oh no,
right? Like, and how important he has been to skateboarding, like, especially as an Australian skateboarder. The dude's incredible, but he's, you know, that he's done so much. He's an incredible skateboarder, but his runs in the Olympics, to me, doesn't mean shit. Like, he's still incredible. He, you know, a run going well or not in 50 seconds or whatever it is, in a blip in your career to show, like, whether you're good or not. That's not what skateboarding is, or can, you know, identify how good someone is.
The strange conundrum, though, was then, like, the mainstream, and, like, you know, the librarian at the local public school watched it and went, "Oh, I thought he was meant to be the best in the world. He's shit. He's shit." And he's not. I literally had people at work going, "Oh, I watched the skateboarding in the Olympics. They just keep falling off."
Yeah.
And then one of them goes, "That Shane O'Neill, apparently he's got one of the biggest Instagram followings." Like, they were looking at things like that. I'm like, I don't even know why. I'm like, well, because he's super popular and he's an amazing talent.
Yeah.
But
and that's not what skateboarding is. Like, skateboarding is that battle to get that trick. You know, it's about the journey to battle to get the fucking trick that you've, you know, been working so hard and obsessing over. To distill that into a minute run to then prove how good you are, and It's just that's why. Like, I don't give a shit that it's in the Olympics because, again, I think the core of it still will always exist. Same with punk music. Like, I don't care about bands like Green Day and bands at that level and doing that thing. That's for them, like, whatever.
You don't resent that?
No, not at all. Like, I'm just some rat ass kid from Fern Bay. What do I fucking? What's my opinion matter? But like, you know, it doesn't really represent the whole thing as a core. And again, the foundations of it and the real shit will always be there. The other stuff, the fads will go away, and you know, yeah. So skateboarding in the Olympics, whatever. It was kind of fun to watch, but to me, it doesn't really demonstrate and speak truly to what skateboarding is as a culture. And
has that resilience that skateboarding has built in you assisted your music career?
Yeah, I think there are parallels with, you know, just like learning and playing an instrument as well as like learning how to skate and trying to like not master it, but like break through to that next level. You know, you're always scared. You know, skateboarding, there's more at risk than playing guitar, right? But you know, like I remember, like, you know, like the first time I ever tried like a blunt slide on a curb or something. You know, like just never thought I could do it. Never, and you know, it took weeks and weeks to kind of like get up the courage to kind of go for it. And then when I landed on one, I was like, oh, actually, it's possible. Wow. That's crazy. I never thought I'd be able to do that. And then, like playing guitar is a lot different. You're not going to fucking break an ankle or, you know, knock your teeth out. But I do feel like it's the same principle of time on the tools. Time on the tools. You got to spend the time on the tools to get something out of it. You know, you can't. Oh look, there are those jerks in the world that can pick up a guitar and play. I know I've got mates like that can just play every instrument like pretty easy and you don't get envious. Yeah, don't get resentful. You don't get resentful. You don't get resentful. No. But I'm like just love to give them shit. What about when? Yeah, but what about when you do see like maybe bands that maybe enjoyed bigger audiences than you? I won't say success. You know, how does that sit with you? To me, that's fine. That's the way it goes. Great. You know, that's the way it goes, man. Like I've played with bands and with people that have supported me on shows, and then they've gone on way beyond what I could even, you know, do. And I think that's fucking incredible. Like that's great. Look, yeah, that's just the way it goes, man. Yes, you know, it's the way the wind blows, and whatever happens. Yeah. Whatever happens. That's like kind of like a very, like surrendering to the universe kind of philosophy. Well, you know, one thing my dad's always said, and I really, really appreciate it and always think back to it, it's water finds its own level. I love that. And, you know, it's no point in, you know, getting upset or rallying against things that just change. Things happen, you know, and you can't control it. You know, try to affect the things you can control in your life. A lot of things you can't, and you just got to be okay to just know that that's just the way it's going to go, and that's how it is. Yeah, you find peace in that for sure. Like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'd have more stress if I tried to like, you know, try to like battle against these things that are out of my control and, you know, in my life. Do you reckon you're mellowing with age in regards to that? Maybe. But I feel like I always joked, I always wanted to be like a grumpy old man. Like I always wanted to be like that guy that just like yells at everyone in the street and really? Wow, that's like a vagrant. No, but just maybe it was just like the antithesis of I guess who I am. I just always was like, oh, I'd love to just be that angry guy that's just got the shits with everyone, like with doesn't care. Bitter political views and stuff. Oh no, I'm not going to go that far. Okay. No. I've seen a lot of friends go that way in recent years, and it's like, oh, yeah, no, that's not the way I want to go. Not the path I want to be like, and that's what I say. It's more of a rib and a joke, but always want to keep learning things and be open-minded and not be rigid and kind of go, well, that's my view of the world. It stops there and I can't, accept anything different.
Are you willing to change your stance sometimes?
Look, yeah, like I think that's a really hard one for sure. And I've not been challenged by that yet. But yeah,
I think
everyone struggles with that for sure.
They do.
Yeah,
because sometimes the ego takes over, and look, sometimes you can be wrong, but it's hard if you've been, advocating a certain way for a long time. I find, and that's been a recent challenge of mine actually.
Yeah, so, that's good. That's
without
good
going into details, and I'm not talking about anything specific, but anyway, give me a favorite skater of all time.
Look,
or a couple. Come on.
No, it's okay. It's pretty easy for me. It's John Cardiel for sure. Like I've got many favorite skaters, and they do come and go. I see a new part, I'll just be like, oh my god, I've never heard of this person before, and they're incredible. But John Cardiel, all time, is one of my favorite skateboarders, and it really, the moment was at Newcastle Skate Park. And this is what I love about anti-hero. Well, in Australia we say anti-hero. In America it's like anti-hero. But well, that's how I say it anyway.
Tomatoes.
Yeah, for sure. But the anti-hero team in Newcastle one afternoon. They're just they're not on demo. They're not advertising anything like that. I'd spend almost every day at Newcastle Skate Park.
And they just rocked up.
And they were just there.
Was that on the Tent City tour?
It was. I think it was on the
when they were just.
Oh, yeah,
they made a video called Tent City.
Yeah, I've got Tent City. I think
it might have been on that road trip.
I don't know if it was before that. Maybe.
Wow.
Maybe it was. Anyway, again, terrible with the details, me. But
it's cool though, man.
But yeah, I was just down there with some friends. There was probably about 5 people at the skate park, and the team rocks up, and I remember it so vividly because it was literally like, I would say it's probably like a spiritual experience that I had at this moment seeing John Cardiel skate.
Sure.
He, I was skating south. Do you remember? Like, did you ever skate?
Yeah, I did
old Newcastle skate park.
Yeah.
So there was the big box,
the fun box in the middle.
Yeah, the fun box in the middle. But then there was the big box at near the northern end,
where the quarter pipe, and then there's a quarter pipe.
Yeah, then there was a quarter pipe after it. Yeah. And I remember along the wall, I was skating along the wall, and I crossed paths with him just as he was coming up the big box, and he was absolutely fucking hooking it so fast. And he done this like air over from the large quarter into the small quarter, and like nose grab, like a lean or something. And I kid you not, his tail scraped the whole way up the transition of the big quarter. He just went like didn't ollie, just scraped it up and then just launched so high in front of me. And then it was just the most incredible thing I've ever seen on a fucking board. It blew my mind, and I think about it fucking all the time.
Amazing, dude.
Yeah.
It's a rat story.
So good. Didn't sweat him, didn't talk to him or anything. Just kind of like let them skate, and
yeah.
Well, obviously, they're going to skate. I'm not letting them, but you know what I mean. Like,
you're fanning out. You didn't want to crowd them.
No. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to, just watch this unfold, and that's all I remember from that demo from that time. I just remember that trick. That was it. That's all I remember about when they were there. It was the best.
One standout musician to date that you feel may have had the biggest influence on you, famous or not famous?
Well, I would say that's a hard one because there's a lot of reasons why for people, but I would say, well, okay, one of my favorite bands, again, going back to when I was a kid, was the Hard-Ons. Grew up listening to them, absolutely idolizing that band. And I would say Rayan really made a huge impact, because the first time I ever met him and introduced myself and, said I played in this band and done whatnot, he was like, oh, I know you guys. Like, I fucking love your band. And it blew my mind. And then he was like, "Oh, we've got to play shows together." And
So Rayan from
the Hard-Ons.
The Hard-Ons.
Yeah.
Dude,
and then
so epic.
And then fast forward, years later, Conation played shows with them. Now Murray, the drummer from Conation, is their drummer. Like he's been their drummer for 15 or more years, or probably more. I don't know.
Wow, dude.
And it was really meeting someone that you idolize as a kid, and this band that you just love so much, to realize, oh, they're a muso. They love music as well. It's like you just put them in this kind of their own category, but that was clicked in me in that moment, which is totally insane to not have known that. But I was like, oh yeah, he likes bands as well. He's just like me.
He's just another dude.
He's just another dude that plays in a band, that loves music, and they've been really great. Like that whole band, every one of them has been great to me. They played my 40th birthday.
That's friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
Man. Where was that at?
It was at Carrington Bowling Club.
The Hard-Ons played there.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Happy birthday.
Yeah.
When was that? How long? Don't tell your age.
No, that's all right. It was quite a few years ago. It was more than 5 years ago. More than 100 years ago, sorry, to be truthful.
Stop it.
Yeah, but and still, to this day, huge respect, Ray and Blackie have just been really supportive of, stuff that I've done too. And, it's, so I'd say that was huge for me, an Australian band and someone from an Australian band that kind of, showed that interest and respect was huge.
Amazing, dude.
Yeah.
I often think if I ever had a full video part in a skate video, what song I would pick for my part.
Sure,
Do you ever think that? Have you
it
ever
changes
thought that?
every day.
Does it? Every day. I think about regularly. I think what would have I had when I was younger?
Yeah,
and
what would you have
let's say
had?
I was able to get 3 minutes of footage together, 4 minutes of. What would I pick nowadays?
Yeah, okay.
It'd have to be something mellow to go with my skating. But what about for you? Give me any songs you reckon? Is that a bad question?
Oh, look, as I said, years ago when I used to skate all the time and was totally obsessed with it and was thinking that stuff, I would always think I want to put a part together. But obviously it was never going to happen. But I used to think about, I know I had songs then. I can't remember what they are now, but I'm sure they were probably 40-second long songs, some kind of power violence song that just ends in
Power violence.
Yeah,
that's an actual genre.
That's a genre. Yeah.
Sorry, excuse my ignorance. I wasn't
No,
really aware.
that's okay.
I would have just called it hardcore.
Yeah, it's kind of like a subgenre. It's really fast,
power violence.
Yeah, really fast. Not we could get into the weeds here.
Let's go.
Shannon, we can get into the weeds of what it is and what it's not, and it's
Let's fucking go.
Well,
no one else has ever brought this to the podcast. Let's go. You're the man for it.
Power violence, bands like Infest, Crossed Out, all these bands from the early 90s and stuff, just really fast, short songs, nothing really much else other than that, maybe a breakdown, and then that's it. It was just all about just the intensity of the music.
Sick.
So good. Again, all bands that not recorded very well, but just that added to the spark of what they were doing. Yeah.
Therapeutic release for people.
For sure. So good. A band would release a 7-inch and it'd have 25 songs on it. 8 minutes aside. It's just just
but that frequency,
so
and that energy.
Oh.
Have you seen it over the years at your gigs as being literally therapeutic to the audience?
For sure.
To release that pent up anger.
For sure.
And then then maybe it's not manifested in other ways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Is that a silly question?
No, I think that's true for a lot of people. And I think that's why that kind of music's really intriguing and brings you in when you're a teenager, because you kind of first time you really these fucking big emotions, man. Like, you know, you're dealing with this stuff. It's like
Big hormones.
Yeah, and you can relate to it so much. Like, as you mentioned before, like killing in the name of, like, you're in high school and you hear that like mantra at the end, and it just resonated so well, because that's how you probably felt about a lot of things.
Well, I was like, I remember the first time I ever had a thought of like, I'm going to change the world.
Yeah,
like, that's what the song did.
Made you
like,
feel
I'm going to
powerful.
change the world.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Like, and that's what, you know, we get out of music. It gives you this extra power that you feel when you hear a song. You're like, you hear a Power Violence song. And you're like, I'm gonna fucking flip this table and throw everything in this room upside down right now, and it's gonna be so good. That's what you want to feel.
That's right, dude. That's so right. How you feeling? If you're tired, you getting sore throat? Or
I'm
anything?
good. I might just get another drink.
Yeah, bro. Get one.
Right.
Look, we'll wind it up soonish.
Yeah.
I've got a few more little things I want to ask you, but yeah, go and grab a beer.
Sweet, man. Boom.
Well, like, here's a question for you. If you could, like, what would you say to your younger self? Like, you're a father now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I do this to my son. I'm starting to, all of a sudden, I'm giving him these like little bursts of inspiration and like life lesson quotes, like, you know, son, don't lie and don't cheat, and, you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. So,
Yeah.
But if you could go back, what would you say to, let's say, what would you say to 18-year-old yourself?
Yeah. I think I'd say everything's going to be all right. You're good, you know, just, I think.
Were you worried back then?
Oh, not
Was there a
really.
lot of worry in your life about the future and how you're going to survive in this world?
No, I wasn't worried about how I was going to survive in the future. I was just like, I want to play shows. I want to skate. I want to, you know, hang out with my mates. That to me was the life force, you know.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I was really wrapped up in it, and it was a good thing. And I'm really grateful for that, to have that. You know, I think about, like, you know, imagine if I stayed in the country town and just ended up fucking pigging and, you know, had a ute and just drank tinnies and went to the pub and then went home. Like, that to me is depressing, to think that could have been an option at some point, you know. I'm very grateful that I had an interest in music and in skateboarding, and to, you know, sink my teeth into.
Interesting. Yeah, I love that you said that, like, everything's going to be okay. I wish because I would say that to myself.
For sure.
I was very stressed out, maybe for a lot of my life, but very, very worried about how I was going to survive.
Right. Yeah, okay.
Scared.
Right,
you know,
okay.
Like financial insecurity and things like that. And that consumed me and took me away from, I think, my dream.
Yeah, okay.
And kept me in jobs that I didn't really want to do, but the security of that paycheck kept me there.
Kept you there. Yeah,
miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, and then it was then coupled with, like, suppressing those feelings with substances, which is just so common. And, like, well,
For sure.
I had one guest go, "Oh, that's the great Australian way, mate." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess, like, I reflect on it, and I think for me personally, and maybe you'll do this with your son, is that I'm going to share that with him a lot, you know, like,
For sure.
and just maybe say to him, like, I don't care if you don't work, if you've got a dream and a passion, like, you can't be lazy, but if you've got a dream, I'll support that.
For sure.
And
I think
it sounds like you had family that did the same.
Like,
really.
yes and no. Like, I kind of, like, when, you know, when I was playing in bands, like, I wasn't really connected. At that time, I wasn't really connected to my family. I was, you know, I was living with my mates over town, and I wasn't really kind of involved with them at that point. I kind of really that was me, just I'm doing this. Even if, you know, I'm sure they, like, was happy that I was happy, but like regardless, like I was doing it anyway, whether I was getting paid like $20 a show or getting paid nothing or, you know, So, like, you know, I think, you know, the older I got, like, I think, let me rewind back to that. I think no matter what, my family obviously, you know, support me what I'm doing, you know, these days and with my music and, but that wasn't, you know, the kind of thing that I needed to do it. I was going to do it anyway.
Yes, sir.
And they didn't really like Conation, you know, those kind of bands. It was like, because they didn't understand it.
Would they come to gigs?
Well, I tell you what, they didn't understand it. They didn't come to gigs. And I remember Billy Bragg saying once that if your parents like your music, you're probably not doing it right. And I fully believe that, because talk about every generation that's, you know, like all the kids that love the Beatles, that were obsessed with the Beatles, their parents fucking hated it, didn't understand it. That's because it's not meant for them.
Exactly.
You know, like the music that I was making when I was 18, 19, 20, I wasn't making it for my parents to like.
Yeah.
And it's good that they didn't like it, because it meant that I was doing something right.
I mean, did they ever like see you playing in front of large audiences and the crowd going off? Like, because I know like maybe that's something that they could identify with and go, well, we don't like it, but he must be pretty good at it.
Yeah, I remember Conation's last show, inverted commas, like our first last show before I moved to Melbourne. I remember my dad and my stepmom and my mum come along to the show, and we done a all ages show, like a matinee in the afternoon. That's the one they came to, and then we done a over 18s at night, and the one in the day. I remember before we played, I, you know, was tuning up my guitar, and I looked down and like my mum was down the front, and she was like, she had like a Conation shirt on, and she was like there, and I just mouthed her. I was like, "You're gonna die there. Like, don't stand there. What are you doing?" And a few songs in, she's elsewhere. But that was pretty funny. I thought, I was like, "Oh, good. Thanks, Ma, for getting down the front, but might not be the place for you right now." Yeah.
Melbourne in general was good for you, huh?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good decision for me. Just musically, like to move there, and I decided to move there, but before I did, my friend Adam from A Death in the Family called me and said, I still remember it, and just remember laughing at him. Like, he goes, "Oh, so Sarah's leaving A Death in the Family, and do you know any guitarists?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a guitarist." So instead of just like asking me, like, you know, "Do you want to join the band?" he was just kind of like,
was he being sarcastic?
He's being sarcastic.
I
don't know. Maybe in that moment he just kind of like bugged out and was like, "Oh, should I ask him or not?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." And I was like, I love the band. Like, I remember my friend Roffy sent me their demo, or she came up one weekend, because she's from Newcastle and she moved to Melbourne years before, and she was like, "Oh, this is Simpson's new band. Like, you should check it out." She gave me the demo, and I was like, "Oh, this is so good. This demo, like, the songs are incredible." So I was a fan from the start, and then when Adam asked me to join the band, I was like, "Yeah, man, like, absolutely." And so I ended up moving to Melbourne. I ended up moving into the art house where Adam and Matt lived from the band. And I played 2 shows with them before we done a 2-month tour of Europe, 38 shows in 42 days. Jeez. So I done 2 shows in Australia, one in Melbourne, one in Adelaide, and then we went on this huge European tour. So and we got along like super well.
And you loved it.
Loved it.
And you
man.
survived it physically?
Survived it physically. It was
Were you partying? Or were you just
Yeah.
like actually trying to look after yourself and recover between gigs?
No, we were drinking. We were drinking a lot. Like that's one of my favorite tours because that's the first tour I ever done overseas. You know, again, just again thinking of myself just like this little shit kid from Fern Bay. Like here I am, you know, on a plane to tour Europe. Like this is wild that's even happening. And we played Finland first. So we went from Melbourne to Finland and played like 3 or 4 shows in Finland. And then we went to the UK. And it was about 2 weeks into the tour that Adam and I got really crook, like wood, like cold, you know, just run down, like, you know, asleep in the van until we had to play. Like horrible, like, you know, you just like wrapped up in your sleeping bag, like shaking and then, you know, go out and get set up and play and then just go back to the van.
Oh, dude.
But then after that, it was kind of like we pushed through the sickness and then we went on a month-long run of shows with Leatherface from, I don't know if you ever heard of that band or know them, but they're, again, one of my favourite bands still to this day, incredible punk band from Sunderland in the UK. And, yeah, we spent a month with them. So before I joined the band, Leatherface toured Australia and A Death in the Family supported them here in Australia. And then Frankie, singer, guitarist from Leatherface, came over to Australia and recorded Death in the Family's first album, which is called This Microscopic War. And so, you know, Frankie asked the band, that's how that tour kind of came about. He asked if Death in the Family would want to go to Europe. So we spent a month in the van with them, traveling around Germany and Czech Republic and stuff. Incredible time, massively eye-opening, like in terms of like what it's like to share a van with people for that long and to drink every night and to like drink and then say, I'm not drinking tonight. And then you get to the venue and there's just beers backstage and you just go, oh, all right, I'll just, you know, I'll have one. And then next thing you just like hungover again the next day. Fucking
perpetual hangover.
Totally. And, but it was such an incredible tour. Like, they taught us so much. And we were really lucky. They never wanted to sound check. So they never wanted to load in and set up and sound check and get all their stuff right. They let us sound check. So we kind of like sounded really good each night because we got to get everything, all the levels checked.
They didn't want to do it?
Because they didn't care. Like they're just like been doing it for like ever and they're just like, oh, fuck that. I don't want to fucking sound check. You know, you have some fucking sound check. Yeah. Yeah. It was literally like, I can't be bothered. I just want to sit over here and just chill.
So they'll get on stage and then just maybe tweak their tuning up a bit and that's it as they're on stage?
Yeah, they might just, they'll just start playing and then just say, hey, need more vocals here and then just get on with it. So
they'll look at the sound engineer and go, point up or down. But
they've done it for so long as well. Like, they just roll with it, right? Maybe it's not perfect, but it's just like, we're just going to do it.
Here's a random one. Would you have a sound engineer traveling with you?
We did.
Okay.
Yeah, in Australia we did.
It wasn't like every venue had their own one and you had to try and like communicate with them.
That tour in Europe, it was like that. Yeah. That tour in Europe was a sound engineer at every venue, different person. But in Australia we had our mate Sam Johnson travel with us, which is a luxury for any band.
Great, because he knows.
He knows what we sound like. He knows the songs, knows the parts, knows where maybe like Adam's the main vocal on the harmony, and then a song that I sing is like I'm the main vocal, he's the harmony.
And he's changing that.
Yeah, and he's riding the. It
must be so hard. Like these are things I've only started considering recently, but it must be so hard to like when you do have to like meet a new sound engineer and you have a little time with them and work it out, and if they're shit, then it's like it can be pretty detrimental, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting, dude.
Yeah. So that was a time, man. Loved that tour. And then I remember at the end of the tour, we pushed through the sick time and the shit stuff at the start where we kind of started to break down, and then we got with it, and then we were we felt like we were so on fire. I remember Adam and I both saying at the end of the tour, it's like, we don't want to go home. I don't want to stop playing at this level that we're at now, because we've been playing every night for like, 38 days.
Okay.
Like, it's just kind of effortless. Like, we're playing well, but we're not, you don't feel like you're pushing shit up a hill to get through the set. It was just like, this is so good. Like, you can see why bands just like
gig fit.
Gig fit, totally.
Is that a thing?
Totally is a thing.
Make that up?
No, it's a thing, man. It totally is. And it was a kind of a gutting feeling to like, we've got to go home. We've got to book more shows. Like, let's get more shows happening.
Because you want to keep it going.
Yeah,
keep the
for
momentum
sure.
going.
Yeah, because you're up there. Like, everyone's just cooking together so well. It's really an incredible feeling to be.
And then
there.
you sort of like have a few weeks off, and then you're not quite as sharp.
No way. Yeah. And you come back to Australia and you can't kind of tour like you can in Europe. You can't drive 3 hours and play another venue that's worth playing. Where in Europe you can just go to another town 3 hours away, or even 5 hours is like doable. But in Australia you go from like Newcastle to Sydney's great, Sydney, Canberra's good, and then but if you went Sydney to Melbourne or Melbourne to Adelaide, it's like there's nowhere else you can. Yeah, for the style of music that we were playing, at least,
And what happens if you gig too much? Then it's like people are a bit sick of you.
It's a fine balance.
You got to space them out so people are excited again, right?
That's right. God, it's a thing. Fine dance to. So people are like, they were here like 2 weeks ago. It's like, and
you play the same set.
Yeah, that's right. We're playing the same set because it's cooking, man. Don't add another song; it might not be good. Yeah. So that was a great time. That was amazing, and
sounds like it.
And I felt like when I moved to Melbourne, it's like the bands kind of level up. It's not like it wasn't like they were necessarily like up themselves or like wanted to be like this like competitive kind of thing, but it's like there are so many bands in Melbourne and there are so many gigs that you have to kind of level up and show that you're more than just the regular band that people see. You've got to really put in the time to hone what you're doing really well, which was huge. And I really appreciated that, because I think like one of the good things about Newcastle, and I really love it, is that it's just completely like have a crack. Anyone can start a band, which is true. Everyone should. But there was that moving to Melbourne. It was like this vibe of like, that's cool, but we're gonna do this and we're gonna fucking do it really good. Yeah, and you're on board or don't bother. It was good.
It was like a bit more of a like, okay, we're taking this serious.
Yeah. But again, not in a shitty way, not in a pretentious way. Just like we're gonna do this and do this fucking really good, man. Like let's give it everything.
Magic times, bro.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
So I feel so blessed to have passions in life. There's a lot of people out there who don't. They never find their thing.
Well, that's what I was kind of getting at before. Like my worst nightmare would have been just staying in the country and just going to work and going home and not really having something else to get some light out of, like skateboarding and music's has been those things forever, and I'm super grateful for that. Like, my worst nightmare is just to be that boring fucking dude that just goes to work and then goes home and talks about real estate,
Well, don't get me started. So what do you do now for a job?
My job title, I'm a technical officer at the Conservatorium of Music here in Newcastle.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I'm sure you get to come across some pretty inspiring people regularly.
Yeah, man. Like I love working there. I love talking to the students because I see myself at that age in them for sure. Like this absolute, drive to just be a musician and just to play music, and that's what they're obsessed with. You see them come in, they play piano in the foyer for like an hour. Like, you know, stuff like that. Like it's really cool, and I love seeing that because I know how much music's given me in my life. Like, you know, I think it's awesome that they're on that journey. Like, I never went to university. I never, you know, studied music. I don't know how to read music. I just learn it by ear. And
then did like a 30-year apprenticeship.
Yeah,
as a musician.
yeah. I got recognition of prior learning, I reckon. I think I'm probably done. So yeah, it's really great, and you know, we have awesome events there in the concert hall as well.
Amazing, dude.
One of the highlights last year was sitting on stage. I was doing foldbacks for this event called Words in Music that mate Nick Milligan curates for the Writers Festival, and they have like musicians, like songwriters and stuff, play a song, but they have you know, people read from books, and it's kind of like songs that were inspired by a poem or a book and stuff. And Jim Maggini from Midnight Oil played. He read a piece out of his book, but he also played Short Memory by Midnight Oil on the stage. And I was hiding, like my spot was like hiding behind a banner with the iPad doing the fallback mixes, and I was like, it's just me and Jim Maggini on stage right now. Never thought I'd share a stage with him.
There you go, dude.
Not actually playing with him, but just sitting here doing my job. But like a moment like that, I was like, oh, that's incredible. Like how stoked, like to sit there and just watch him play this song. Like,
dude.
Yeah, pretty cool. So it's
this is the essence of life, in my opinion, is these moments.
Absolutely.
A build up, a combination of these moments. And again, I'm a pretty doting dad. Like, I feel like parenthood then exemplifies that, and it's just a series of these special little moments.
For sure, man.
Especially when your kids are young. I mean, you said your kid's getting a bit older, almost high school age. Or?
Yeah, he's turning 12 this year.
I don't know what it's like to have an adolescent yet, but
yeah,
might change.
Get ready. Yeah, you'll be good. You'll be fine.
Thanks for saying that. Whew. Have you got any? Okay, well, have you got any gigs or anything coming up? What do you got?
Yeah,
any
I do.
Releases? What do you got?
I do, mate. I do. I've got. I'm playing at a place called the Midnight Special in Newtown in Sydney on the 17th of April, which is the day before Good Friday.
Yes, sir.
So no one's got an excuse. They don't have to go to work the next day. They can come and hang out. And I'm playing that with my friend Will Staller. He is an American fella that lives in Australia now. And I met Will because he played in a band called Defiance, Ohio from the States, who me and my bandmates, my ex-bandmates loved, played in this band called Feel Like Us. And when our first record came out, we were like, what band do we love to play with? And everyone just kind of went, oh, Defiance, Ohio. And so we sent them an email and said, do you want to come to Australia? We'll organise the tour and you guys come out.
Yeah.
And they did. And that's how we met them. We got them out here and had this incredible 2-week tour with them. One of the best tours of my life as well. It was like a really beautiful, like just beautiful people, great time, like just couldn't have been more perfect, you know?
Yeah.
We became really good friends, and then he met his partner out here, and a few years ago they moved back to Australia, and he actually lives up the hill over from me as well.
No way.
Yeah. So and he Will plays in a local band called Exit Mold these days. He plays drums in that band. They're a killer band. They're great. But he still does his solo stuff, like plays his own songs. So we've got 2 shows coming up together. We're doing the Sydney show, and then we're playing at the Ship-In on the 25th on Anzac Day, actuand
I might pop down for that.
Yeah, man, come along. It's a good time.
Rad venue.
It is great. It's a great spot. And so I've been doing the solo stuff for years. But when I'd done my first solo record, I put a band together of a bunch of mates. And after the record came out, like everyone played in other bands and was doing a lot of stuff. So getting that band to do stuff was kind of hard to get everyone on board, like, and to be available. But Liam, who played guitar with me, has kind of stuck around ever since. So he's moved back to Tassie these days, and I moved from Melbourne. Like, he was living in Melbourne at the time. So he's moved back to Tassie, I've moved back up here. So for us to get together, it's a bit harder.
Yeah.
But we finished a record together at the end of last year, and that'll come out this year. And Liam and I are playing at the Ship on the 25th of April, and then we're playing Dance and Fest at the Basement in Canberra. The next
Baso?
Yeah.
I was just there the other week.
Yeah.
Rad venue.
Good spot. Yeah.
In Belconnen.
In Belco, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And so we're playing that festival on the 26th. So
nice.
Yeah, a few shows coming up. That should be good.
Dude.
Yeah.
Mate, you're a busy dude.
Yeah. Well,
and
trying to keep busy.
I love it. And I'll put some links with information to these gigs in this episode's show notes. So if you scroll down, you'll be able to click on some links. I'm sure you'll have something for me people can go to.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But anyway, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, Shan.
Mr. Jamie, man. Hey, everybody. Absolute legend.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
Thanks for having me.
You. See ya.